Good morning, members of the public, councillors and staff. Welcome to today's meeting of the Operations Committee. I shall start the meeting with a karakia. Tuia ki runga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki roto, tuia ki waho, tuia tātou te tangata, kei te kaupapa o te huine, kei te kaupapa o te rangine, moriora ki a tātou katoa. That translates to bind above, bind below, bind within, bind beyond, bind us the people to the purpose of our meeting, to the purpose of this day, breathe life into all of us. Welcome everybody. We do have Councillor Hill and Councillor Ellis on Zoom this morning. I'd like to welcome Community Board Member David Armstrong up here to the table. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. You can view it at your leisure on the Council's YouTube channel. A reminder to keep your microphones turned off unless you're talking, and if councillors you wish to speak, if you could just put your hand up. Thank you. And a reminder as well that the media are present here today, and that's probably all I need to cover. Oh, emergency exit out here and toilets through the doors and out there to the left. Now, I'd just like to start off by apologising on behalf of the council to a member of this committee, and that is Chanel Starkey. Unfortunately, Chanel was not included in the meeting notice, and so she's not present at the meeting this morning. And so that's most unfortunate, and so I do apologise to her. However, we will record her as an apology this morning, and we also have apologies from Councillor Dowler. We have an apology from Councillor Greening, and we have an apology from Mayor Tim King for lateness. So could I have... Madam Chair. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bryant, and seconded by Councillor Maru. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. That moves us into the public forum, and so we will start with the order that I have them on my run sheet here. So we will start by asking Trish Palmer and Hamish up to the table. Thank you. Speaking on behalf of the Stanley Brook Residents Group. I'm just getting my clock ready here. And so thank you. So you've got 10 minutes, I think, between the two of you. So I think we'll just, if you're happy with that, we'll just run the time together rather than 2 5-minute slots. Yep. And I'll keep track of the time. So I'll let you know when we're at 9.5 minutes if we're still going then. So if you can just press your red button and over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you to everybody for taking the time to listen. Firstly, I'd like to table, in case anybody hasn't seen it, the verbal submission that was made to the long-term plan, which provides a lot of the background information. There's 5 copies there. So we're talking about resilience, access and risk and safety. We have 4 main areas that we're concerned about. Hamish is going to talk about Forest Creek and the Stanley Brook Waterway. I'm going to talk about the unmaintained section of Sunday Creek Road, the user groups and the grader. So if I start with the grader, the issues with the grader on Sunday Creek Road in particular is that they are filling in the water channels. These are channels that have been created by TDC for water escape. The grader at the moment, if you go up there, you can see very clear evidence of all that work being negated, and the water therefore pouring onto paddocks across the road, scouring the road. blocking the culvert entries so the water's not going where it's meant to, and the scouring is increasing rapidly. The user groups that we have using Sunday Creek Road at the moment, there's a lot of motorbike informal and formal groups. Last weekend there was a group came through with over 60 motorbikes came through that road. Cyclists for fitness training and casual runners, contractors who are trying to avoid the main roads with their machinery, and particularly after dark. Forestry, car clubs, residents obviously, but in weather events often it's the only access for Tapawera residents in the wider valleys to get through to from Motueka or Richmond. And it's in weather events often it's also the only access for emergency services, and we've seen that many times. The unmaintained section of Sunday Creek Road, several years ago, we had a knock on the door and we agreed for the temporary withdrawal of TDC maintaining the road through the middle section for safety reasons, because forestry needed to maintain the road for their logging standards and for their safety. And we thought that was a really sensible temporary situation. Turns out that temporary is a very long time, because then when forestry finished, signs went up saying that TDC weren't going to maintain the road anymore, and we never agreed to that. There is a local who does some maintenance, basic maintenance at their own and their business's cost on that road, out of their concerns for that road. I don't think that's okay. That's a cost to him and his business. And what we really want on that unmaintained section of the road is for the water channels to be protected and looked after. If that was done, then most of the issues on that unmaintained section would disappear. Not all, but most. So that's what we're asking for in regard to that. And we also need that anybody who's coming up to inspect that road or any part of the roads around our area to please knock on doors and ask us, because we're the ones that are there. We're the ones that are cleaning it out in the rain, in the flood, and at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we would rather be asked.
Thank you, Trish. I'll talk to you about Forest Creek Road to begin with. Forest Creek Road has had a lot of gravel put on it just recently, but unfortunately it was not very good gravel. And talking to residents, it has become to the point where some of them are unwilling to drive on it, and that is also being accentuated by the fact that the culverts have not been unblocked, and even the grader driver has requested attention to the culverts, and this hasn't been happening. This, however, is got a bigger issue of the Stanley Brook River and the bridge, which has had major scouring in the last few years, and is now threatening the approaches to the bridge, threatening the road approaching the bridge, and a power line that's crossing the river there. And there is a large protected oak tree which is in danger of falling in on the upstream side, which will seriously danger the bridge and the access to a dozen or more residents on these roads, some of them elderly and with health issues. And yeah, it's not a case of when this will happen, it's if this will happen. It's a case of when. And I'm not very good at public speaking, so I'll call at it. Thank you.
One of the issues with the bridge and the river is that at the moment, because the river has changed, one of the residents has lost a complete paddock virtually from their property, but there's a power pole there which supplies the power to the people up Forest Creek and some on Sunday Creek as well. Ironically, I'm not affected because I'm off grid, but I need to fight for these people, because if that power pole goes, then they've got nothing. Those people have no desire to be on the 6 o'clock news. And they also will have no access to, again, like the AED, and in some cases their work is on the other side of the river. So that bridge needs protecting, and that roadway access needs protecting. And we believe that if not the next cyclone, and cyclones we know are going to happen, if not that one, then the next one, but it's all going to go. So we've talked about this for a long time, but we're actually at the point now where we need some work done, please. And I would really love to hear your questions or discussion.
All right, thank you, Trish and Hamish. We do have time for any questions of clarification. I might just ask one myself if I could. So in terms of the power pole, have you had any discussions with Network Tasman in relation to that?
No, we haven't.
Sorry.
I believe they are aware of the issue. It's debate over whose responsibility it is to protect it, I think, along with, whether it's,
All right, thank you. So I'll just see, Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, would you be able to give us an indication of sort of the usage of the unmaintained section through to, trying to think what the road is at the other end, Dovedale Road, isn't it? On a sort of daily, weekly basis?
Yesterday, and yesterday was a wet day. There was around about a dozen vehicles came through. On fine days, we get some days very, very little, but then other days, because now what's happened, a lot of groups are actually going out for their rides, not just at the weekends, but during the week as well, because of the retirement age. More and more people are retiring, and they're getting motorbikes particularly, but also cars.
Yeah.
And they're going out. We're getting a lot of runners and that. So day before yesterday, there was about 10 contractors came through. And one company in particular seemed to be using it as a shortcut. And at night, we've even had the grader coming through using it as a shortcut to stay off the road when he's coming through late at night, shifting sites, which I find slightly ironic.
And just to follow up, what about if there's a closure on the Motueka Valley Highway?
Oh, we notice it straight. That's how we know that the Motueka Valley's closed, either at Kahatu or at Woodstock, is because we get a steady stream of traffic. So we tend to sort of shut our gates and just watch them come.
Yeah, just a quick one. On this temporary closure for the forestry, how long ago was that? And is there any documentation on an official agreement with that temporary closure that you know of?
that was over 10 years ago now that logging was done. I mean, the next crop's half grown. I don't know of any official documentation.
We just got a letter at our house confirming that we had agreed. And I mean, we were pretty naive. We should have asked for, but we trusted the council representatives at the time.
All right, that's at our 10 minutes. So Trish and Hamish, thank you very much for taking the time this morning to come and talk about the issues in your neck of the woods. I think as chair of this committee, I will ask the group manager to be able to update this committee on the matters that you've raised. So thank you very much for taking the time this morning.
Thank you. And we would dearly love for somebody to come and knock on our doors.
Thank you.
All right, we're now going to have Councillor Dakey do a short presentation in the public forum. Thank you. As you can see, I'll be on the bell.
Good morning. I've got the responsibility of the clicker, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm here this morning to talk about the Saxton Social Space and Accessible Playground. It's a concept. This concept comes out of the presentations we've had through the LTP from people coming to talk. Some very personal stories and some very captivating issues there. And so I guess I'm here to represent those people. You know, they're real heroes in the community, and this would give a lot. Through the LTP, there was 28 submissions to Nelson and Tasman about this playground at Sexton, and also support from Nelson-based Primary Health also put a submission in favour of this. So considerable support. So I'll start into the presentation. Right point. Here we go. Okay, so just real quick, it's 5 minutes, so I'll have to fly through this. There's a few slides. So introduction. So I'm the Deputy Chair of the Accessibility for All Forum, and through the forum we've heard the need in the region for a space that's inclusive and usable for all. On the screen here we've got a slide, and it looks like a normal slide, but it has one big difference, and that is on the bottom. It has a little bit to the side, so that you know, if you can hop off at the top in the wheelchair, you can come down the slide and you can shuffle across to the side and wait to be picked up by mum or dad. So just small changes to a playground make it accessible. Okay, so 1 in 4 New Zealanders have a disability, and only 10% of those are visible disabilities. So we're talking about a large amount of people. Okay, so it's what we're looking to build. Saxon would be a space for everyone. It would be an area designed for an inclusion, which is designed for young and old, those in wheelchairs, be disability friendly. The goal would be to break social isolation and provide space for physical and mental health, an area for conversation, and also an area to connect with nature. I won't read this out because we're a bit short time, but basically you can build an accessible playground, or you can build an inclusive accessible playground. And an inclusive playground is one that is designed to ensure children play together. So you've got everyone playing together rather than separated. And this is an example of a non-inclusive playground. It's better than having nothing at all, but you can see you're isolated from playing with other children. This is an example of an inclusive design. So here we have a flying fox that can be used by able and disabled children at the same time. And if you were to walk up to it, you wouldn't realise it's any different than any other playground. Okay, location. So I'll say again, this is a concept. So let's take this as me speaking personally rather than the council. So Saxton Field, ironically, the motto for Saxton Field, or luckily, is a space for everyone. So that's fitting, isn't it? So Saxton Field is a joint regional asset. It's located at the centre of the region. It features flat, accessible land. It's got ample car parking. The playground would fit well with the existing activities. It's already becoming a popular recreation area. In fact, the velodrome might be the hot place to have your kids' birthday parties at the moment. Sometimes they go past, there's 50 families in there. So, and it's got excellent visibility for safety. This is the area of consideration at Saxton. And these are the possible sites for consideration within the area. Nelson City Council have started this process, and they consulted on Area A shown in the slide. So that's just to the side of the cricket area, cricket oval, and other areas highlighted there are possible areas. Areas F and A are on Nelson City, and the other areas are on TDC land within Saxton. Design. So there'd be a community-driven design, and we'd work with everyone. So it wouldn't be a council-driven project. It'd actually be a community-driven project. We'd be working with accessibility groups, seniors, iwi, schools and kindergartens. I won't read through all of these, but needless to say, we're looking to build a place that's suitable for everyone so people can interact. This is an example of what it might look like. Quite different than what you might, a lot of people perceive a playground as being plastic. We'd be looking to build a nature-based playground with sheltered family areas for picnics, barbecues, etc. as well. So somewhere green, not plastic, so natural with a soothing feel. and it would be designed to fit within Saxton's wider environment. So in summary, we've got an opportunity to partner with the NCC to build a significant place-based space within the region, an opportunity to work with the Magic Bridge Trust. Councillor Rollo has been in contact with the Trust and travelled to Hamilton to view their playground. So we're aiming with the community, of course, to develop a high quality, accessible, inclusive playground to make sure those that are often left out aren't. This is the example of the Hamilton Magic Bridge Trust playground. Fantastic space. I'm sure we could do better because we're Tasman. Okay, thank you. I should mention also too that Jo Alice has actually been doing a lot of this work too. So I'm just here. Jo's away today. She's on Zoom, but I just like to mention her as well for her hard work she's been doing in the area.
All right, thank you, Councillor Dakey. We are at the end of our time, so we don't have time for questions, but do appreciate that the effort that you've gone to make us more aware. So thank you. All right, that now moves us to any declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, I shall just declare a declaration in relation to page 111 of our reports, paragraph 7.43. So if there is any discussion on that paragraph, I shall hand over to Deputy Chair Walker. There are no late items. We do have some minutes to approve of our meeting held on the 4th of April. Do I have someone to move those minutes? Are a true and correct record. Moved Councillor Mayling, seconded Councillor Dakey. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. All right, that then takes us to our reports. So we're going to start with report 7.1, which is on page 4 of your papers. So welcome Pip, who will speak to the report. Over to you. Thank you, Pip.
Kia ora, thank you. So the report covers our performance measures in relation to the levels of service that we commit with through the LTP, covers the period July to December 2023. In essence, there are 109 measures, 43 are on target, 16 are not on target, and 50 are yet to be measured. Most of those are yet to be measured because they rely on the annual resident survey or end of financial year data. That's reasonably similar to where we were this time last year. So that's pretty good progress. And in terms of I think the key focus is those areas where we're not on target. And 2 of those are in environmental management, and that's around the resource consent processing timelines. One of them is there's 2 around transport. We have a slightly higher crash rate, and our percentage of resurfacing local roads isn't what we had met for a target. Our wastewater overflows, we've had 5. 4 of those were due to blockages and 1 was due to a pressure main failure. Customer satisfaction with our resource recovery centre is slightly under target with 94% and our target was 95%. And water supply, there has been some missing of targets in terms of the temporary advisory notice resolution and response times. And then drinking water standards, which is actually around the complex technical part of the 3 water reform program and different quality assurance setting bodies. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Hopefully, if they are quite specific, we have staff on stand to answer more detailed questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Pip. We'll now go to questions. I might just start with my main question, Pip, and I guess looking at it from a governance perspective, and part of our role is actually to manage the performance of the council. my question would be, this is a report on the 6 months of performance from 1st of July through to the 31st of December. We're now at the 16th of May. So why would we be getting a report on 6-month performance so far past the end of the reporting date?
Kia ora, I think that's a really valid question. The context for that is that a number of the staff that are involved in reporting on the performance measures have also been quite intensely involved in the long-term planning process, preparation of AMPs, etc. And looking across other councils, some regularly report on these and some actually don't at all until the annual report. So there's a varying continuum of reporting. But it would be really useful to know from your perspective what would be helpful in terms of reporting on those, and we can look at managing that within the team.
All right, no, thank you. That's a good question. If I can just respond to that. I mean, if our job is actually to indicate where we're not satisfied with performance and we might want to direct some kind of emphasis or change, then, we have to get the information in order to fulfill that function. So I think that, I totally accept that it could be a good, 6 to 8 weeks in order to complete the report and get all the data and the explanations. So that would be acceptable to me, but probably not, a good, 5.5 months after the end of the performance period. Anyway, open for questions. Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no bell for this, is there?
Sorry, what was that? Well, there could very well be. I could introduce it. I'd quite like that.
So I've just got to it here. And the first one follows on from Madam Chair's is in terms of, I would have thought the reporting on last year's targets would have been a key feeder in the planning for the LTP for targets for next year. So the delay in that lag, I'm confused. So if we don't benchmark last year's and we aspire to next long-term plan, I'm confused over that. So I echo the timeliness, and it doesn't have to be a perfect report. A report more timely is better than a perfect report 3 months later. But it really relates to transportation. So it's page 20 and above target. Probably had this from Jamie somewhere else. So the stats that have put us over, are they because of the roading network or are they because of the driver behaviour? So when those crashes were logged, what were they?
It's impossible to answer that because there's so many different factors that lead to crashes happening. It is very rarely down to one single factor related to the road. I think I've talked about that before. Yeah. It's definitely not that simple. And in fact, this is one of these measures that you could spend a long time debating how much control the council actually has.
That's where I was
what levers we can pull. There are some levers that the council can pull. The biggest one that research has shown to be effective is speed limits, but that's a matter that's been already discussed outside of this.
So is that a mandated measure or is that one that we've asked for?
I believe it's in the DIA mandatory measures.
Okay.
And it's one that's been around forever.
Because it's the same question, is that you can't control a lot of the factors. So our target's probably always going to be near impossible to meet.
Yeah. It's definitely a matter of interest for us as road controlling authority that we need to be keeping an eye on.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So Jamie, I guess where I sit with this conversation, I know we have this every time this report comes up. I'd like to have assurance that if there was an accident and the report came back from the police to say it was to do with the surface on the road, that triggers something within our system, as opposed to it was a wet day or they were under some mind-altering substance. But if they can actually clarify that there was a road fault, that would trigger something for us. Thanks.
Yeah, I can confirm that that's the case. Yeah.
Councillor Murray.
So has there been any of those triggers in the 6 monthly report, such as that?
No.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Pip. Who did? Oh, John, do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Oh, Pip
Yeah.
wants to say something.
Look, it would be really, and taking on board the, you're wanting to know where we're at more regularly. Two things. One is that we are taking into account some of these measures in our actual performance as we review the targets for the LTP we're preparing. So that's a piece of work that's currently happening at the moment. But it will be really helpful to know in terms of frequency to this committee or to the appropriate committee, what frequency of reporting would be useful, really.
All right. Well, so maybe we can take that conversation offline unless anybody else has a comment about it. Certainly organisations that I've worked with before tend to do it every 4 months. So over the course of, so you really get two times during the year to take some kind of corrective action. But at a really high level, my thought is that these performance measures and their accompanying targets, they should be things that are meaningful and important for the organisation doing its work. And so in some way, I would put the question back to you. Managing work within the TDC, how often do you need to get information about how your performance is tracking? So, cool. All right. We'll leave it there. So we do have a resolution up there on the board to receive the progress review report. Do we have someone moved by Councillor Maru, seconded Councillor Shellcrass? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So thank you very much, Pip and John and Jamie. All right, that takes us to the Community Infrastructure Group Activity Report. We will do, as usual, this report in sections. We're going to start with Richard, and this is on page 63, and then we will move to Grant, I think. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the management update, you will note under the drinking water non-performance financial measures, non-financial performance measures, Taumata Arawai are flexing their muscles in regard to our reporting. And as you know, we've had a team in place for the last 2 years. Last week, we just received a notification on the wastewater and stormwater reporting. And they're going to be requiring us to do similar reporting in the wastewater and stormwater space as we do in the water space. This has implications for the team, and we're probably going to have to come back to you in July about how we resource that, because it is very intensive. I'm actually going to suggest to the team to come back to you and give you some indication of what monitoring we are doing in the water space and how labour intensive it is in monitoring what's going on. It's actually fairly severe, but just indicating to you at this stage that this is only stepping up to greater levels of performance. Other than that, the Motueka West Stormwater Project, this project is actually going a lot faster than we had anticipated or envisaged. And so we're there's in the resolutions, and there's going to be a slight modification to the recommendation, is that we're just noting to the committee that we'll be going into over expenditure on that particular project by the tune of 1.3 million. We had funded the remainder of the project into the next year's LTP. Obviously, the LTP hasn't been signed off yet, but it's just an indication to let you know that we're rather than stopping the project and taking the contractor out, there's costs associated with that. We want to progress it. They're actually doing very well. And so we're just signalling a $1.3 over expenditure, but we'll cover it off in the budget that's coming through next year. So it's just a procedural motion at this point. So it's a good news story. Instead of carryovers of money, we're carrying over expenditure. So it's and that's it from me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. So just in terms of the managers section, Do we have any questions for Richard? Councillor Mailing.
Well, thank you, Richard. In terms of the Tamana ROI, I would have thought that would be a good point to raise with the Minister of Regulation, because it just seems that it's more regulation and more monitoring that is costing taxpayers and ratepayers in New Zealand more money and not necessarily improving the service. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, it is a fair comment. It probably also, with that sort of monitoring, is going to highlight perhaps, particularly as we go into water reform, what additional investment is going to be required to make sure that what we are monitoring always improves over time. The comment was made in the previous report about the performance measures regarding wastewater, particularly with overflows, and we are totally reliant on our community in that space. And sometimes we can't manage what gets thrown down the sewer system, and that does create problems for us. So even though we have measures in place, we cannot actually specifically control what leaves an individual property. So it's a lever that we cannot pull all the time, that we do monitor our manholes to make sure that if there's any surcharging going on, we find out why before any spill occurs. But sometimes we, given the extent of our articulation, it's not an easy thing to do. But to answer your question, I know in the Local Waters Done Well legislation, the Water Services Act and the Water Services Legislation Act, I think, are staying in place. They haven't been repealed, but they have indicated that they may change it sometime in the future. So the regulation part may change. Yeah.
And if I may, in terms of the other issue that that's actually a good news story in some ways, because we're underspent in some other capital projects, so it will get us closer to budget. And I'm sure it's cheaper to complete the project in one go rather than taking contractors off and then reinstating them later.
That is correct. And I think we've signalled to Council and to the Operations Committee in the past that we're actually looking more and more at a 3-year program, so that we can actually shuffle projects around across the years so that we actually get a better delivery on our capital program.
Councillor Kinnermont.
Thank you. And through the chair, Mr. Kirby, page 64, 3.4 and 3.5 clauses talk about the Department of Internal Affairs. Can you highlight what they are doing exactly, or give us a bit more explanation apart from that? To me, it seems to be a double function on the council.
I might ask Mike to comment on this. Are you up to speed? This is the submission we put into the DIA regarding their performance measures. The drinking water compliance regime. Oh yes, that's come to mind now. What DIA were putting out, they were referring to a 2005 drinking water standard instead of the latest ones. So they were a bit out of date. So we've actually gone back with our submission and said, listen, you need to, if you're going to be applying these regulations, you need to align with what Taumata Arawa and that are doing. So that was largely the submission. Is that right, Mike? Is there anything more to add?
So I'm confused. So we've got two bosses now. Department of Health and the DIA all on the same work stream. Is that what we're talking about here?
48.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially, yes. I'm not sure where DIA are linking in with Taumata Arawa. I don't know, Mike, if you're aware of that.
I guess it's also, it's, well, that's our submission. That's that there needs to be close cooperation. They need to be aligned and they need to be up to date with what they said as mandatory standards to report on.
Okay, therefore, how does the rest of local government in New Zealand deal with this? Seem to be a duplication. Is there anything that can be said along that question?
Not at this stage. It's probably when you say local government New Zealand, about local government in New Zealand. So what you're saying, or local government New Zealand specifically as an organisation?
Other local governments, like us, who must have the same problem.
Yeah, I think that is a valid case. I think the situation here is that with the water reform which DIA are driving on behalf of the government, and with Taumata Arawa implementing the Water Services Act from previous legislation, there's a little bit of overlap and a little bit of duplication at the moment. But I think in time, it'll probably align itself.
Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have been talking to colleagues around the country, particularly around the South Island. Evan, our compliance team leader, has got quite a network from all drinking water assessor contacts and he keeps in regular contact with. And so there's a fair bit of agreement between us and other councils, and other councils have actually asked if they could use our submission and submit it as well. So there's a fair bit of support, and yeah, so there's alignment already.
Great, thank you very much. So if there are no further questions for Richard, I don't know why I said, Grant, we were going to move to you because we're not, unless you really want us to, but we're going to move to Nick. So that's the order of our papers. So we're going to move to Nick. So this will be pages 65 to 68 of your report. So over to you, Nick. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to point out a couple of errors. 4.10 refers to the Richmond Library, not the Fielding Library, so apologies for that. And 4.11, there's just a bit of an update there. The costs of shifting the solar from Richmond to Taka was too great, so we're now shifting the solar panels to the side of the building from the centre of the roof, which is lot more cost effective and will meet the structural requirements. So other than that, I'll take the paper as read and open to any questions.
All right, we have Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and that's a good place to start. So how did we get there, Nick, in terms of you had an engineering report, it said you could put them there, and then somewhere it's been discovered you can't put them there now. How'd that happen? I'm just confused. And what's the fallback from the engineer's report?
We had an engineering report that said that the roof would be able to take the weight of panels. We installed the solar panels probably about 18 months ago, and the roof started leaking. It's a complex issue. We've had engineers and builders look at that roof. The building wasn't actually designed for the purpose that it's used for nowadays, and we've gone back to the engineers and they said, look, it was a miscalculation. We do need to shift the panels away from the centre of the roof, but yeah, they have admitted that there was a mistake, and we've used another set of engineers to peer review as well.
So in that case, if I can, Madam Chair, there must be comeback because the engineers must be insured for a mistake in terms of professional advice. Is that pursued and is that being followed up, and is that going to help offset the move?
No, we haven't followed it up, but I'm happy to do that and report back.
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maru. I think you could take that, Nick, as we want to do that. Councillor Kinnenmonth.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Page 68. There's a graph there on life cycle forecasts. Does this graph get shared with the Enterprise Committee?
No, it's not. It is to do with our maintenance of our property and hasn't got much to do with the Enterprise Committee.
Okay, thank you.
I think the point, Mike, is that the Enterprise Committee oversees a particular portfolio. These assets are not in that portfolio.
Totally agree with you, Madam Chair. I was just thinking of the sharing of information because I know the Enterprise Committee is looking a bit deeper into what, when, how, why we do things.
Right, we could take that discussion offline. Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Hey, Madam Chair, just Nick, through the chair, just wanted to ask you some questions around the fleet on page 66 for councillors. So it approaches 10 new vehicles, hybrids. That's going to be an interesting situation when they get out in the field, I imagine. But My question really relates to 4.5. All the old vehicles have been sold. How do we actually sell them? Do we sell them through Turners, tender, or firstly?
Through Madam Chair, we use a company called Fleetwise, and they're an LMVD company. Other councils also use them to sell vehicles. It's worked out quite well. The cost of selling it through Turners was actually significantly more, so it was a cheap option.
Right. And then just turning to 4.7, we now have an AA service as a service provided for after hours breakdown. Considering that they're all new vehicles, do they not come in, or maybe because we fleet purchase them with company like Toyota Aftercare, or where they have a 3-year program anyway?
Yes, they're all warranted for 5 to 7 years. It really covers things like a puncture on the weekend or on the way home at 7 o'clock at night. So we've had issues with getting people out to repair punctures, for example, if staff are out during the holidays or at night. They've presented us with quite a very cheap option in those circumstances. It's essentially if they can't repair it, they'll get it back to the nearest garage.
Thank you. Then just going down to facilities maintenance, the Motueka Museum roof, I'm assuming that's our building.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bryant, Richard, you wanted to make
I just want to comment on the vehicle sales. Obviously, we're not licensed motor vehicle dealers, and as soon as we try to sell our vehicles ourselves, if we do more than 3 or 4 a year, we've got to be licensed, and I'm not sure we want to, and it has to be a person as opposed to an organisation. So we've got this company, they oversaw the fleet review that we did and recommended what we're doing. So we're relying on them to actually not only help us in procuring vehicles, but also selling them. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Mailing and then Councillor Maru.
Quickly, it's on the fleet again. I noticed our car park in Oxford Street doesn't have council vehicles parked in it this last week, and it looks to be either staff or members of the public because the gate was open. So do we not require that anymore? Because I know a developer was pretty interested in that bit of land some time ago.
Through you, Madam Chair, we made a decision to shift the council vehicles that were parked into the church for Wensley. One of the reasons was we noticed in the utilisation study at council vehicles that were based in Oxford Street were less utilised. So it was also to improve the utilisation, and as a result, we allow council staff to park in Oxford Street. Just further to the developer, they've been contacting us off and on for the last 18 months, really. We last heard from them just before Christmas, where they said they were going to turn up with an offer. We haven't heard from them since, and I suspect the building downturn has had an impact on them.
Certainly. Can I just add to that'll be part of the discussion. We come back to you with the properties later this year on what ones are options for sale. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mailing. Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's my last one, I promise. So it's about the towing vehicle for Sentinel. So I know that work's getting done and being assessed, but is there any budget anywhere for a vehicle that'll be suitable to the tow Sentinel when it needs to get around? I understand the background, but I'm just wondering where budget comes in.
There is some budget within our fleet budget, but it depends on the option that is selected. So worst case, we'd have to get another vehicle and perhaps another trailer. Best case is there are so many options. We may even get a lighter vehicle. We may rationalize the 2 vehicles that we have into one vehicle and not have any impact. So it's there is a small amount of budget that we can apply because the assistant harbour master's vehicle was meant to have been replaced this year. Depending on the option, we may it is likely we may have to seek extra budget.
Because surely this will be the most urgent of the fleet requirements in terms of making sure we can get the Sentinel somewhere if we need to.
It's, I guess, we've been aware that it's been a problem for the last 5 years. What staff have been doing is they've been deloading the Sentinel fuel and everything inside of it to ensure that it meets it's legal when it's towed, but that's a laborious process.
So now it leads to another question, Manager. Is a risk that high? And my understanding, the unloading and deloading has only been a recent thing, and we've known about this for 5 years, and we have a towing vehicle that's not suitable to tow the weight of the trailer and the boat. How does that get past audit and risk? How does that get past all the systems that are supposedly in place?
Yeah, no, it's true, Madam Chair. So well, the way staff have been managing it since the Sentinel came on board about 5 years ago was that they've been deloading the vehicle to make sure it met the tier weights to tow. But as I was saying, it requires 2 vehicles whenever we take it to a site, and it's a laborious process.
Can I just add to that, Madam Chair, that the Sentinel will be part of our normal vehicle replacement program, and we do have the plant replacement budget in there, so the funding will be there. If the funding for that is more than we require, that means that other vehicles will not be purchased next year, so we don't exceed budget.
So just so I'm clear, Madam Chair, sorry, we're not talking about the Sentinel, we're talking about the towing vehicle for the Sentinel.
Sorry, the towing vehicle I'm talking about, and maybe the trailer that the Sentinel's sitting on. Yeah.
Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you through Madam Chair, and thank you, Councillor Murray, for bringing that up. I'm looking at the facilities maintenance, and we clearly state here that the Motueka Museum is, you're working with Heritage Architect because it's one of the heritage requirements, and, so this building is of significance. So I'd just like to know why, when I put a service request in for get security lights for this building, because we acknowledge it's a tonga for our community. We acknowledge that we should be looking after it, but we can't get security lights fixed in the tree because it requires a fitting replaced. Can I have a report back from someone as to why we can't do that little job when it's something of such importance for our community? Thanks.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I'll report back on that. Sorry, I was unaware of that issue.
Thank you. If you could just include everybody in that report back, that would be useful, Nick. Thank you. Look, just a couple of questions from me. A comment firstly, we've got the chart here, figure 2, property transactions over 3 years old. The data seems to be indicating that you've made really good progress on clearing what was quite a big backlog. So well done on that. Thank you very much. My question is about the property condition assessments. So as a result of those condition assessments, we've now been able to put some dollar figures around what might be our deferred maintenance as well as our ongoing maintenance, and the report indicates we've built that into our LTP. So at what point would we be considering whether all of those properties are actually the properties that the council needs to deliver its outcomes in the longer term? So it's all very well building in costs into the LTP, but if the properties aren't essential to start with, that's really the discussion that needs to be had.
I think that's actually the most important part of work that takes place. We need to ensure that our buildings are fit for purpose, that they're utilised well, and perhaps as part of the study we're doing at the moment, those that aren't fit for purpose or have poor utilisation, maybe we should potentially sell them and buy property that is a bit more suited to what the public are after. But that's quite a big piece of work that we're looking at starting soon.
All right, I think we'll just pass through to the group manager that's obviously something that councillors are interested in.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of work involved in that. I think the first priority we've got is to find the properties that we can sell. Some of them may have buildings, some of them may not. But the next part of the phase that Nick and the team are working through as to which of those buildings are still important. It's probably fair to say that the ones that are probably less important are the ones that we're already fully aware of, the ones that probably on the margin are those community groups that are slowly waning in their use of buildings. And that's where we'll come back to you on. Because obviously it's a very emotive area if we start affecting some community groups in the way they operate and use some of our buildings.
Thank you. And can I just clarify, so you've updated us on the Richmond admin office improvements and staff are going to move from the mall and the White House into the church in August of this year. So does that mean that all of our staff will either be here or in the church, and that those other lease arrangements will be terminated?
That is correct. That's the intention. We've still got to meet as group managers to find out who goes where and with the new building, but the intention is to release the mall lease from September, and also the White House, and accommodate staff within the existing buildings.
Excellent. Well done on that. So that appears to be the end of the questions in relation to property. Nick, thank you very much. So that then takes us to pages 68 to 86. Jamie, on transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
68 to 86.
I'll take the report as read. I'll just talk about, just give a little bit more information about something I've talked about in 5.6, which is a council submission on NZTA's draft emergency works policy. We intend to bring a draft submission to the Strategy and Policy Committee on the 28th of May for approval before we submit that to NZTA. So just you'll get a chance to see our actual submission and approve that. So happy to take any questions.
All right. Any questions, Deputy Mayor Bryant?
I think you're on page 76, just in relation to the Murchison speed table. Big thank you from the community, particularly the community council. Job well done and appreciated. There was some action on social media, as you've got on the following page. I think the catalyst was for someone actually posted, why did we need so many people there to do the job? The job was done in one day instead of two. And someone fortunately actually put a label on each person and what their role was, which was very informative for the community. So I know that it certainly seems safer as you use it now, and particularly with more of the children biking around to the new pump track and things like that. So well done. Thanks, Jamie. I'm not sure if we have a page for this other question, just in relation to the presentation in the forum this morning. And I think the chair may have said you are going to ask for a report back, or have, or will. Will that look at that section of unmaintained road? Because I do wonder if we do need to look at doing some maintenance on that at some stage. Because the problem is it's generally deteriorating over time. And occasionally we have to use it, as you heard, for emergency access and access generally.
Yeah, through the chair. So I've noted down a number of things that that was mentioned this morning. The issue of the unmaintained section of Sunday Creek Road. Now, I'd like to take a closer look at it, because we have this kind of bigger picture of a lot of roads that people have requested that the council maintain. That are not currently maintained. Now, we've got about 19 roads on that list at the moment, and if we were to just immediately decide to maintain them all, we would be spending anywhere between $0 and $1.5 million bringing those up to a maintainable standard. And there would be an annual maintenance cost in excess of $100,000 associated with those roads. So it's difficult for the council to add cost into its program, you know, with its financial constraints at the moment. Having said that, the reason I'd like to look more closely at Sunday Creek Road is to understand how often we might need to rely on that as an alternate access. So I know that there was one active slip site up the Motueka Valley that led to a prolonged closure. Now we dealt with that at the time, but it did mean that there was quite a detour for traffic. Now the issue with Sunday Creek Road is it's not an appropriate detour for all traffic that would be using the Motueka Valley Highway. So it's a question of, I guess, how much the council want to spend to provide that level of convenience to some road users.
Thank you. For you, Madam Chair, so when you talked about the cost, Jamie, that was for potential cost. That was for the whole 19 roads though, wasn't it? So like you say, there'd be some variability. So I'd say there'd definitely be some cost because Councillor McKenzie and I and Brian, team leader engineering, have driven through there and had a preliminary look some time ago. And it certainly won't be no cost, that's for sure.
Thank you. I guess on that point, you know, I think we heard from the residents this morning that, you know, they would like to have a yarn and be able to show you things as well. So if you are going, Jamie, to touch base with them. Councillor Kinnan-Month.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Page 72, picture 5, Stafford Drive. After an April weather event, there was some debris over the road from a storm. That seems to be an ongoing and continual sort of issue there. I know the council has done some remedial work by putting some rock wall in there. I was wondering, A, have you looked at increasing the height of the wall so the debris doesn't come across the road? Or B, remove the debris from the beach so that it doesn't get deposited on the road?
Through the chair, I think each of the options, the three questions you asked about whether we could raise the wall height or sort of keep the beach clear of debris, neither of those would be economically viable compared to the cost of simply going and, you know, once or twice a year just removing the material that washes up on the road. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Kinnan-Month.
Okay, then that's fine. I understand that your maintenance is easier than some capital works there. But having said that, there's a lot of debris on the beach that also affects the Pine Hill stream, which is further in somebody's report about having to clear a block drain. So the debris is causing issues on the road and also unblocking a drain within 300 or 400 meters away. I was wondering if maybe we could look at the option of having one go of getting rid of the debris so we solve two problems.
I guess the unknown through the chair with the debris is that it tends to arrive with storms.
Yeah.
So we couldn't guarantee that the debris won't just reappear for, you know, having shifted from somewhere else. I'm not sure about the outlet issue with the creek, but yeah, I mean, in any coastal environment like this, it's very difficult to have control over some of these effects.
Thank you, Councillor Kinnan-Month. Councillor Walker, then Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about Stafford Drive as well. I guess for me it was like, how do we mitigate? Should we be doing something when we know we've had very clear warnings that that event was coming? Could we or should we, but knowing that that drive is very problematic, should we cone it off when we know that event's on its way to mitigate any unnecessarily risk for any residents or people like myself who drive through that area? Because we knew the event was coming. I get it when we don't know and something just miraculously Mother Nature just hits us, but we had lots of warnings that was going to happen. We also had residents ring into the service centre about their concerns that we knew that king tide was coming and it could place that piece of road and those people travelling through there at risk. So I just wonder, where is our appetite at in preparing for that one stretch of problematic road? That's my first question. And then I have something completely separate from that topic. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair, it's very difficult to predict exactly what impacts any given event might have. So, the proactive closure of roads is a very tricky thing to get right. Because no matter which way you go, you'll probably be proven wrong. If we cry wolf and close roads too often and nothing eventuates, everyone will think, what the heck are you guys doing? I'm struggling to give a clear answer on anything we might do differently in that case. There were one thing I would say is there was no call received that night after someone had noticed debris on the road. So we weren't able to send, normally, we have staff crews on standby, so they will respond immediately to any issue that's been observed. So that's the key. We think it's more reasonable to respond to observed impacts. It would be a tricky road to go down, no pun intended, to preemptively close roads to address every possible risk.
Next question. Oh, you want to
add to that? Going by your question, Councillor, it sounded like when that event comes along, you want someone permanently on Stafford Drive from our contractors to monitor what's going on as it happens. If that's what the council wants, there's a cost associated with that, and that the expenditure in the roading activity or transportation activity the last year purely from events like this is in excess of $3 million. So if you want to have that level of service in place, well, you can tell us, but obviously there has to be some funding with it. So we just need to be careful at the moment. I believe we've struck it right. As Jamie has outlined, we have people on standby. When a call comes through, we go and clear it. Now, unfortunately, people think that we should have we've got cameras everywhere, we should be watching what's going on, be immediately there at time. That's not going to happen. We require people to be responsible themselves when they're using our roads and to let us know if there's anything untoward that occurs.
Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I'll take the rest of that conversation offline because obviously there's more that I've been fed through emails than what you've captured, Mr. Kirby, but I respect that. So my next thing is around, wonderful, we got our bus stop moved on Wallace Street, and we actually got a structure put up. But all three ward councillors have been having dialogue with our contractor over in Motueka and with Rob O'Grady around the placement of the seat in the said bus shelter. So please can we have some reassurance that that's going to be looked at before that job is signed off as being completed, because we've had clear feedback that the seating has been moved from where it could be to where it should be. Thanks.
Yeah, I can confirm that's still being looked at.
Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Yeah, my apologies, Madam Chair. I missed this before, but I was just on page 79, 5.24, and I was reading this and I was thinking about Higgins Road. I don't remember any drainage happening around there, bike around there. And then today I haven't flicked down and looked at the pictures and talks about Higgins Road, but I can tell it's the Higgins Road that runs off the Kawatiri to Lake Road or Edie Road. So just not every councillor would have picked that up. So perhaps we can put Higgins Road, Kawatiri or Spring Grove in future.
Yeah, noted, thanks.
I'm impressed with that. Was good distance to bike, Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Yeah. I took our bike down there.
Councillor Maru, then Councillor Day.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's really short. So just in regards to 5.18 and 19, Jamie, I'm just interested when you bring the paper back of where the boats and cars may park, because it's a spillover from Kaitieri. It's a spillover where the boats are. So I get making a walkway. I'm just interested where the boats and trailers will park, and that can be in the report back when you've got a consultation.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I don't have any particular insight at this time.
Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, through the chair. Jamie, 5.15 Streets for People, Salisbury Road. Sent a whole lot of issues to you during the week from residents in Richmond concerned about various layouts and issues. Especially it was good to hear in regards to the ghost markings on the road. They're very confusing that you guys are already onto it, so you're aware of most of these issues. Can you just confirm that the changes that we make to these layouts, that they're still coming from within the original NZTA funding?
Correct, yeah. And their funding's available until the 30th of June this year.
Okay, so follow-up question. With Wensley Road, also a few resident queries about what we're doing. Can you just outlay the process around how and when the ceiling and the Streets for People program will overlap?
Yeah, through the chair. So some sections of Wensley Road are due to be reconstructed next summer. So at the moment we're doing some maintenance of some isolated sections, and next summer there will be some sections of road that have more substantive rebuild to put the strength into the road structure. So that will require just a little bit of disruption to some of the road markings that are going in as part of the Streets for People, but that's a low cost exercise to reinstate those markings. One thing we are doing is the Streets for People project envisaged a raised pedestrian crossing across Wensley Road near Waverley Street. That raised crossing won't be built initially because it's in the area that needs to be reconstructed. So that will be done next summer after the rebuild. So in the meantime, we've just added a couple of extra speed cushions, which are low cost on the approach, and we will mark the zebra crossing so that pedestrians, there's been a lot of demand for people to safely cross Wensley Road in that area. So we will still provide them with that in a safe way, which involves low traffic speeds.
Jamie, just a couple of questions from me. So you mentioned that NZTA will give us indicative funding allocations for maintenance in May, late May. Oh, that's this month. Is that earlier than normal, or is that what you were expecting?
It's, if anything, a little bit later than normal. Normally we would have expected to see an indicative allocation by this time, but obviously with the change in government and the draft GPS being quite late. So ideally the council would have known its indicative allocation before the LTP gets signed off, because it's quite a significant impact, depending which way it goes.
Mm.
So it just remains an acknowledged risk in terms of the council's LTP.
Yeah, thank you. And then just a little request, the footpath matrix, where we have, I guess, the wish list of footpaths, is that, could you maybe distribute that to, I think we've had it in the past, but if you could redistribute it, I think it's probably something we're all interested in.
Absolutely, yep. I'll work to redistribute that as soon as possible, just amongst all councillors. Yep.
Right. Thank you. And finally on transport, and then we'll break for morning tea. Sorry, guys. Councillor Killenmonth.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Page 84, clause 5.31, that you have purchased some bike lights and you're going to distribute them. Recently, you purchased some bells and distributed them as well. I was wondering if you consider some of the other road users and buy some or distribute some, I don't know, valve indicators for the air in the tyres, or windscreen wipers, windscreen clearance, or rags for clearing things. You know, that's not only the bikes, but there's also other people using the road. So is there a a budget for these sorts of things for all road users?
Through the chair, great question. I'm glad you asked it because yes, we it's not in here, but we have purchased ice scrapers as well. They will be available at council service centres, and in the past we have also had things like valve tyre pressure indicators. I don't think we have any at present, but yeah, we have sort of rolling programs of these things to help people, you know, keep themselves safe on the road.
Right, thank you, councillors. So we will break now for morning tea until 11 o'clock, and when we come back, Grant will be hitting it off with reserves. Thank you. Thank you, Grant. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take this section as read. However, I just want to draw your attention to 6.1, which is the community housing section. There's just an error there. So the wait list is at the end of April this year, not the end of March. But anyway, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, and just for the benefit of council, this is pages 86 to 98. Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I've got three. The first one, Saxon Field, I've just sent an email through this morning, Grant. So tomorrow, the Saxon Field Committee is going to be recommending the draft 10-year plan for Saxon Field back. And at the moment, it doesn't incorporate a playground concept in the first 6 years, I think. But just wondering in terms of that process, how we may, I'm looking for guidance really in terms of listening to the submissions on Saxon Field, having the ability to potentially take into account the presentation made in public forum, bringing that playground forward. How can we navigate that in the timeline that we've got? Or is it better just to bring a recommendation back? We go through our separate LTPs and then send it back the other way. I'm just confused around timing.
All right, thank you. Richard's going to answer that.
I think the meeting tomorrow, the importance of the meeting tomorrow is to consider the submissions that are coming in, and out of that, if the Saxon Field Committee believes that the two councils need to fund the playground earlier,
yes,
you recommend that to the two councils to include.
So clear. So if that's the thought, I'd probably just need to hear from my colleagues at some stage offline before tomorrow at 9:30 or whatever that is. And the other one is Dix Reserve. Thank you to your team, Grant, in terms of the work that you're doing with Councillor Walker and the community board with the Dix Reserve playground. But I also have the 6-year-old that Mr. Strange is well aware of. Her name is Maddie. She loves Wildman Road. She loves Richards Reserve. She's really, really upset that it's taking months to replace a broken slide. And I do have a photo of Maddie if you'd like me to send that to her. And I know there's a cost implication. I've had a report back, but in terms of something taking so long is quite hard to explain to a 6-year-old over a $1,500 over budget project. So I get the budgets, I get the things, but our playground repairs and upkeep has to be better than this.
Thank you. Did you?
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Councillor Kinnermonth.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Page 87, clause 6.9. This reminds me of a discussion in the Ngāti Moti Community Association about sheep being on the Ngāti Moti Esplanade Reserve. Do we have to have sheep on our Esplanade Reserve? Can we just keep it for people to walk on? That's one question.
Through the chair, no, we don't have to have sheep on Esplanade reserves. I think historically it's been seen as a cost-effective way to maintain these areas, particularly when it's when they're remote and the cost of getting machinery to site. However, we'd be open to considering other options.
No, I understand if it's just keeping the grass down, but Andrea just asked me the question that, sorry, I'll move on. Then we've got the Kelling Road Reserve below it on clause 6.10. I know they're not actually linked, but can I see a plan of these two Esplanade walking reserves relating to the Great Taste Trail? Do they actually link up to one another, or are they just separate parcels of land that people can walk on, but nowhere near the Great Taste Trail?
Through the chair, I would have to take some advice from Richard Hilton and the team about that, but we can certainly provide something in the next update if you like.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, and then Community Board Member Armstrong, and then Councillor Shellcrass.
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Chair. A big thank you to the team for the pump track out at Murchison. Have had lots of feedback from the youth. They're very excited. A little bit sad that the first lot of blood was shed by one of our team. Hope it wasn't too serious. And then certainly the youth are looking forward to tomorrow, Saturday at Motueka Skate Park. Just a little promo there. My actual question though is, going back to what Councillor Murray said, is no, it's really great that we're doing some really good, big, constructive reviews of our playgrounds, and that Dex Reserve has gained as much traction and movement. But I am a little concerned around the cost of doing these new capital programs. How does that impact on us still getting the service for those other playgrounds that still need a little bit of maintenance? And I'm not saying restorative, like brand new equipment, but like when we've got Waldman Roads Park, and we've had another one. We obviously do regular checks to make sure that there's nothing untoward. And then if there is something, how do our community know not to use it because it's not safe? And how does that trigger so that, because I've heard this conversation about this little 6-year-old a few times now. So I guess for me, because I'm sitting there helping steer a massive project with thousands of dollars, my conscience says, but at the cost of a 6-year-old not using a play piece of equipment that is already installed. So is there a works program? How does that work?
So about a year ago, we had an assessment of all our playgrounds carried out, and out of that, we prioritised a maintenance repair program, which we've been working through. And so typically, NELMAC would do regular checks of the playgrounds. It has been weekly of all the playgrounds. We're currently reviewing that because the frequency is obviously quite onerous, and yeah, we might have to look at that a bit differently. If there's anything that is found, we would essentially try and have it fixed as soon as possible, or tape it off, try and make it safe somehow, and then we would have to carry out the maintenance or replace any parts that are required. But we do have a program that we're following. So.
If I may, Madam Chair, I guess I just still sit a little bit uncomfortable knowing that I don't know when that maintenance work would actually happen, and how would the community know? So we've acknowledged there's a fault. I don't understand the process, and you don't have to do that online now, but it would be good to know that when there is a challenge, what our process is, and are we following it, and is that best practice to keep communities still accessing what we have? Thanks.
Thank you. Community Board Member Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just answer a quick question for clarification. 6.1 on community housing, the movements, what does that mean? Movements of tenants out and new tenants in?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair, page 92. Just on the better off funding that's been pulled for the Taka Skate and Skills Park. I know there's a bit of a long story to that with the land through Fonterra, but can we maybe get a bit more information on that? And is there any chance of somehow, getting that back?
I can answer that one. We had a directive from DIA through Crown Infrastructure Partnership last week. Any funds that haven't been committed, we have to redirect to investment in Three Waters, or invest in the development of the new water service delivery plans and CCOs. So yesterday I made a call on that funding. So some of the funding is going to go to Three Waters, but we're pulling a fair amount of that funding to help us fund the development of the water service delivery plans that is anticipated with the new legislation that we will have to do over the next 12 months. So basically the money for that bike park in Taka from Better Off funding is gone. So if we want to go ahead with it, council's going to have to fund it some other way. I had discussions with Fonterra yesterday. They're still going through their property discussions that I've conveyed to them that funding has gone, so the deadline is gone, but they still need to give us an indication of where that land's still going to be available, and they're going to come back to us on that.
Yeah, just one more thing. Yeah, so it's obviously a real shame, but it's obviously you haven't got the land, you can't spend the money. So, but yeah, thanks for that response.
Councillor Cannon-Mont, then Councillor Dakey.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. That was exactly my question as well, and I'm disappointed that the Tamariki and our future generations are not going to have a skate park and the skills park in Takaka. And I would sincerely ask that we did consider them in our future planning. Maybe not this round of long-term plan, but I think if we've shown a need for it there is a need, and we should actually do something about it. So it's not a question. I'm probably suggesting that we should be looking at some sort of similar system, maybe in a different location than Takaka.
Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, through the chair. Grant, the Begonia House in Washburn Gardens, good to see it's been refitted. Bit of a process here, but looking fantastic. When we go to put the new plant stands and whatever is going to be on the inside, can we just take consideration for users with mobility issues? So wheelchairs, width of where we put the stands, it'd be great if it was accessible since it's got a ramp up to it. Just put that in there. Thanks, Grant.
Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in relation to Fortners Bush on page 95, Grant, talks about planning, concept design and initial community consultation completed. Just wondering what the next steps would be there.
Through the chair, so we're currently carrying out some procurement. I know that some of the items have been purchased or are about to be, and so we can get underway with stage one.
Any idea when that might start?
I think it'll be in the new financial year. Stage.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Grant. So I think that takes us to the end of the section on reserves. So we'll now move to water and waste, and Mike, over to you. Thank you. So council, this is pages 98 to 111, and we're going to have a short presentation on remote operated vehicle.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I was going to take questions on the report and then introduce.
Oh, if you want to do that way, do you? Okay,
yeah.
we'll do the report first. So so you tell us anything you want to tell us, then we'll do questions.
Well, that's right. Yeah, because I actually haven't got anything to add to the report, so take it as read.
Okay.
So I'll just take questions and then we can get into the presentation.
All right. Any questions for Mike? Councillor Cannon-Mont.
Thank you. It's probably just if you could upskill me a wee bit here, might be a bit of a challenge. Page 103, you've got a graph there. Three Waters Operation and Maintenance Contract, KPI. Is that the appropriate name for this contract now? Or what is it? Is it a contract that deals with the water, waste and stormwater?
It is our Three Waters contract. It's always been called that before Three Waters came along, because it's water, wastewater and stormwater.
Councillor Walker, then Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. This is a reoccurring conversation that we have in pretty much every one of your reports. And I just wonder, so it's around wet wipes and how they block and cause pump problems, ongoing problems. So when I go and buy wet wipes, there's a thing written on the packet which says this is biodegradable. And I just wonder if there's a conversation that needs to be had from someone within our sector to manufacturers to say, yes, they are biodegradable when they get in the ground, but they're not biodegradable when they get stuck in a pump, and that the cause that they have and the costs that they're having. I remember, like, years ago when my kids were young, we used to get these things called wet wipes. They weren't biodegradable. But now we've actually got manufacturers putting all over their packaging that they're biodegradable, but actually that's not the biodegradable part that's causing us costs and grief. It's the fact that where people are putting them through a system that then blocks and causes problems. So how do we eliminate, like, what conversation are we having with manufacturers, suppliers, sellers, end users? Because reoccurringly, we have the cost of pumps having to be fixed, blockages, wastewater in places that shouldn't be, on roads. Where are we going with that conversation, or are we even having that conversation?
That's a conversation above us. We try and advise people locally. I'm not sure where they've got a standard for what's flushable, but that's only a very small part. I think people just ignore that and continue to discharge them. I think there's, I know the things like Water New Zealand and are having these discussions, but there's such a range of wipes of various sorts out there, and I think it's an education, unless they ban wipes of any type, but that's not going to happen either. But it's keeping the education going, getting people to not dispose them down the toilets.
So how do we get funding to do that education for their product that's becoming problematic, that costs us regularly, costs all of us?
It's not something we can do locally. That's got to be taken up at a national level.
Thank you, Mike. As frustrating as it might be, Councillor Walker, all the power sits in the hands of the consumer. So that's what we need to mobilise, the power of the consumer. Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you to Mike, just in relation to on page 104, in relation to the operations update relating to the renewal of the Pitfield Road asbestos pipe, does seem to be taking a little while and causing a little bit of congestion in Wakefield. Is there any issues that have come up that are causing that?
I'm only aware of one issue where they had the road blow out on the corner and they had to put everything off for a day or two. But I think it's probably best to come from Russell on that. I'm not aware of anything specific. It's quite a big job. But the Pitfield Road job.
Pitfield Road asbestos replacement. Hi.
Not aware of actual delays there.
Right, so it's on time. Yep. Hopefully on budget. Yep. I do know they've had to redirect the bus, and because it's quite used as a thoroughfare for a lot of people going to the school. So then, of course, one day NZTA had the other road with traffic control as well. So it's really added to the chaos. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bryant. Look, a question from me. I feel as though I want to understand more this issue, Mike, around the council-owned low-pressure pumps in Wakefield, where we've only got 16% of the homes that are complying with council's requirements. So how can that be?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have those systems totally compliant when they get code of compliance. And after that, we have, often it's building companies, and so we have the instructions and manuals given to them. And at some stage, it gets sold. And and it seems that information is not being handed on to the new homeowners. And also, after code of compliance, that's when all the landscaping, etc., is done. And our biggest issue is people don't like the box on the fence, so they get it moved, or they get landscaping and they bury all the stuff. And at the moment, we're finding that's not bad. Our initial checks in Berryfield on a small scale is that most of them don't comply, and mostly because of landscaping issues. So we basically have to go back to every one of those after the homeowners have actually moved in and basically settled in maybe a few months down the track and inspect them. Because with landscape that they basically block off any air vents or anything like that, and the pumps start failing.
So it seems to me that this is potentially quite a big issue. I mean, we've gone down the route of the low pressure pump system. We can see all the benefits associated with that. But if you think about it from a systems point of view, something's going wrong in the system, isn't it? That the information is not transferred to a new homeowner, that, the landscaping gets done. So there needs to be some different intervention within that to stop these problems happening. So I don't expect us to be able to resolve it right here and now, but it doesn't seem satisfactory to me where this has landed.
This is not a new problem. This is something that even before low pressure pump systems, it's an issue we have with landscapers all the time, with burying gully traps, building the surrounding ground up to the gully traps, getting stormwater downpipes directed into the system. It seems every time there's a change in homeowner and they do some changes on the property, they tend to overlook their requirements. And it's just being vigilant and keeping an eye on the catchments and the flows we're getting from there, the reports of blockages, and responding at that stage. And we do occasionally where a particular area is an issue, we do a flyer with our brochure and drop them off at the houses. And when we do these inspections, which we'll basically get around to all of them in time, we present the new homeowner with the operator's manual.
Do we pass on our costs to homeowners?
Well, that's not the cost of the inspections. If there's an issue with the blockage of the pump itself, they get the first blockage at council's cost or the ratepayer's cost. After that, they're responsible for any costs of it. And anything on the site that's needs to be repaired or mitigated, it's at their cost. And then we'll do a follow-up inspection. But we don't recover any costs for the inspections.
And maybe it's something that, some kind of a newsline update or, interview with Mike Schrewer by the Waimea Weekly or would be good, because I mean, potentially all these homeowners just don't know. So Mike, that seems to be the end of our questions. So we'll move to your presentation now. Thank you.
So I'm going to introduce Jonas Ehrman. He's our cadet. He's been with us since January and will be with us through until the end of the year when he graduates. Today's presentation is a remote operated vehicle, a submersible remote operated vehicle. And when Jonas arrived, I basically dropped him in the deep end, pardon the pun. But I advised him that a bit of equipment had arrived and it was his to sort out. And he was asked to put it together, work out how it worked, write a manual for it for other operators, set up a inspection sheet for the audits we're going to have to do. And then follow up with the engineers on what needed to be done. I'll get the cost of it out of the way right away. It's of the order of between $7,000 and $8,000. However, we are now under the Water Services Act required to inspect reservoirs serving over 500 people every year. In the past, we would have had to drain that reservoir. We would be lucky if we could get a reservoir done in a day, or we would have to get construction divers in. And the decontamination requirements for construction divers is extensive, and we'll probably have to take a day per reservoir. The first time, or the second time, maybe after the initial trial run, Jonas managed to do, I think, nearly 13 reservoirs in a day. Okay, they weren't big reservoirs, but that's how much more efficient it is. So that first day, I think it actually paid itself off straight away. And it'll probably be used in other situations as well, like dam inspections and so on. So a very useful piece of equipment. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Jonas.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning. I feel like Mike's stolen some of the show here already. But I have the pleasure of introducing you to one of our newest tools, which is the submersible ROV that we have trialed and will be using going forward for internal drinking water reservoir inspections. Our drinking water reservoirs are a vector for contamination. There's a number of issues that can only be identified through internal inspections, structural issues, corrosion buildup, sedimentation issues, all that sort of stuff. In addition to that, we are now under an obligation by Te Mata Arawai to do annual inspections, as Mike mentioned, for any reservoir, for any storage facility serving more than 500 people. So that's why we're doing this. Enter the Charsing M2 Pro submersible remotely operated vehicle. It's very tempted to bring it down here, but if anyone's interested, come up to engineering and I'll give you a show. People tend to compare these with aerial drones, but they are quite different. Obviously, weight isn't a concern, and they have a much longer battery life. They are very differently dimensioned. We're talking a very, very clown-sized shoebox. The office has affectionately named ours the Krusty Krab. You can tell many of the team members have small children. Benefits, as Mike has already mentioned, there's only 3 ways really to internally inspect a drinking water reservoir. You can drain the reservoir, you can send in the divers, or now that this technology has matured, you can use an ROV. The costs are much lower. There is next to no risk. The greatest hazard is getting your data tether tangled around a column. The deployment and iteration can be done very quickly. As Mike mentioned again, we did 15 in one day. Now, most of these are small tanks. We're talking 3.5 diameter, 25 cubic meters of water. But even those, any other form of inspection would be prohibitive in terms of time investment and cost. I've got for you here a sped up video of, is this going to play? Fantastic. Of us doing a inspection of just one of those 3.5 diameter tanks. You can see it looks like there's a lot of light in there. There really isn't. The device comes with some quite powerful flashlights. So we've just sort of dropped it in through the hatch at the top, sort of getting orientated, having a look around. We've got some sediment here. After a while, you kind of get used to looking at sediment and sort of telling its composition. Going to do a bit of a close-up as well. So you have to look at the walls, make sure there's no discoloration or cracks and whatnot, quite unlikely in a plastic tank like this one. So just the whole time recording video. And as you'll see in the next slide after the video, that all gets evaluated in the office afterwards. So you can really drive around. You can get a very close look at any sort of issues. So just looking at I think that's the scour of the tank, sort of driving around. We've got that would be the outlet, I think. No corrosion in this case because we're talking plastic. You can also see the pattern of the sediment, so you can quite easily tell where the inflow of the tank is. And that's pretty much it. You know, that's 360 view. Get a look at the ceiling, get a look at the sedimentation levels, check for corrosion, and we're out. The whole process takes 5 minutes, and it's just incomparable to any other way of doing it. Here are some images from inside our larger reservoirs. I believe most of these are from Champion Road.
It's 5,000 cubic meters.
It's 5,000 cubic meters. It's our largest storage facility by far. And you can almost not tell that this is underwater. The image quality is quite good, but you can also see that there's a lot more going on in terms of sedimentation and structural integrity of the walls and corrosion on scours and pipes, etc. This is what a report looks like. Right now it's me, of course it's going to have to get handed off at some point, but right now I go through the video and create a report, which will then be integrated with Water Outlook in some fashion, which is how we report to Taumata ROI. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much.
Excellent, very interesting. I'm sure we could all ask lots of questions about it. We are a little bit pushed for time, so I'll just remind councillors of that. Councillor Mailing, no, you can't use it for spotting fish, so that's you crossed off the list. So yeah, just bear that in mind, councillors, with your questions. Councillor Kinmonth.
Due to the shortness of time, I'll withdraw my question.
All right, thank you. Councillor Shelton.
Mine's a real quick one. Do you know if Nelson said he's got one of these?
They don't, but we've actually been in contact about demonstrating it to.
Can we charge them to use it? That's all right.
Excellent. Well, that was very good to see. I'm sure that we all hope the inside of our tanks looked quite as good as that one. But Deputy Mayor Bryant.
You're right, because thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I've seen some messes inside some tanks, and the farmer in me just has to ask this question: can we attach a pump to suck the sediment out at the same time?
Feel like you're, a bit of a joke, but no, not in this case. There are specific devices that will do that. There are other ROVs that have pump attachments and are designed for this purpose, but just strapping it onto this one is probably not going to work. No.
Yeah, particularly where you get inflow that's quite silty and it just settles in the bottom, it would be ideal, because there is people that offer tank cleaning services, you may well be aware, on a commercial basis.
Excellent. Oh, was that?
Well, I was just thinking about the time we put a person in the tank, but that's very much discouraged and not a good idea nowadays.
No. All right, great. Exciting. Thank you very much. That now takes us to Russell project delivery. So that's from pages 113 to the end of the report. Over to you. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you. The only thing I just want to make a quick comment on is Port Tarakoe. The first stage of Port Tarakoe is now completed and has practical completion. We will get the final account within days from the contractor. I'll be able to update you on where that contract lands financially. The only variation we've had on the contract since we started it was for extra rock work. There's been very few other variations at all. We've had no safety events, so it's been a very successful project with the breakwater. The new berths are available to be leased out, and it looks stunning, looks great. And we're well into stage 2 now, the next one, which is the sheep pole wharf, the ablutions block with office on top. Happy to take any questions on other projects.
All right, any questions, Councillor Mari? And then Councillor Mailing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I've got amnesia, but remind me about the water facility at the Rec Centre. Wasn't that decommissioning? Is that a decommissioning cost? Or, page 113.
Through you, Madam Chair, the Rec Centre, we cannot continue to use the bores long term unless we put in a treatment facility. So the idea is to isolate those bores, because in an emergency we could still use them. So isolate them totally from the system to the requirements of Taumata ROI, and then we will be installing a reservoir and pump there, because we do need to boost flows from there. So we'll top up the tank with treated water from Parker Street.
And that's in the vicinity of $1 million now.
Councillor Mailing.
Just a quick question, Russell. During our long-term plan hearing of submissions, a number of developers were saying that, it's really quiet out there and contractors will be sharpening their prices. Are you seeing that reflected in anything that's coming to you? Because only the big ones come to the tenders panel, but are you seeing more competition in that
Yes,
market?
we are. Because of the slowdown in private development, that is the reason why Motueka West stormwater project's going so fast because there's two crews on the ground. Because the crew that's there was not getting the private work, so basically doubled up. That's what's gone faster, which is great. We like projects to go fast rather than slow. Tender box prices, there has been more competition. Prices have eased, not drastically. Maybe come down 5%. More important, they're not going up. But there's definitely keener competition, and we have been approached by numerous contractors for a pipeline of work into the future because they don't have the same amount of private work. So keener competition also within the consultants as well. They've seen a bit of a slowdown in work. There's been some major projects, the Picton Wharf, for instance, which has affected a number of consultants through the country. And a lot of the tier 2 consultants that used to a lot of the private subdivisions have seen their work dry up, and they've been approaching us for work. So yes, it's in our favour. It's a good time to get things done because there's a lot of competition and there's more capacity, which has been a big change what was 2 years ago.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Bryant, then Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Brian, this is Brian Russell, sorry. Just in relation to the on page 122, the pump track Murchison, just wanted to thank you and the project team for the work you've done in managing that project. Adam and Rianne did a great job liaising with the community, and don't want to take away from the reserves department as well. All worked well collectively together. Just wanted to make the comment that was passed that the Murchison Sports Centre meeting on Monday night, Michelle, the manager there, who you all work with, had done an exercise and worked out the value of input from the local community, and that was, she believes, around $35,000 of input from the local community to keep the cost well under budget and to allow a margin, hopefully, for a playground to get started at least sometime in the future. So just thank you all for your efforts, and just acknowledge that input from that community. But they weren't required to do that, but that certainly helped.
Yes, just a quick comment. Several things occurred because of the community input. The community got what they really wanted because they had a lot of input to it. And there was people with diggers and spades and gravel coming around physically doing work, and it did lower the costs. And it certainly had a good integration between our projects team, the contractors and the communities to get a good outcome. So it's a really owned facility.
And really popular. And just before, thank Dan for Councillor Sheldrace for his input as well. Yeah, that was really appreciated by the local community.
Thank you. And Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, through Madam Chair. Councillor Dowler sent me a couple of questions, but I will forward those on to you. It's about the Mott stock bank work. I guess my only question is, are we still on track to have that finished by the 31st of May?
Yes, we are.
Awesome, thank you.
Just, if I may, Madam Chair, in response to Councillor Dowler's question, can we perhaps be related to the stock banks? Can we all be see the responses, please?
Yeah, just so send, when you get Councillor Dowler's questions from Councillor Walker, if you can send the answers to all councillors, that would be appreciated. All right, councillors, that looks like that takes us to the end. Thank you, Russell, very much. We do have a resolution, for up there on the board. The essence of it is that we're going to spend more money than we have budget for in the current financial year on the Motueka West Stormwater Discharge Project, but we have the budget in the 24-25 year. So we're seeking approval to spend ahead of the budget, not to overspend in total.
So I'm happy to move, but just perhaps for you, Madam Chair, the question of the mayor. So this is a referral to full council or a recommendation? What's the procedure there that you're referring to? And
it's basically for your information that the full council, because it has responsibility for over expenditure and the like, not this committee. That's why we need to take it to council on the 20th of June. In effect, it's going to be requesting a retrospective approval for this over expenditure because we don't want to stop the project.
Thank you. Still happy to move.
So it's moved by Deputy Mayor Bryant, seconded by Councillor Mailing. Any discussion? All right, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Thank you. That now then takes us on to libraries, customer service and community partnerships update report. We've got John and we've got Glenys. Thank you very much. So we'll start off with, and Lani. Excellent. So Glenys, we'll start with you.
Thank you.
Berta, thank you.
I'll take the report as read. I'll just note just a couple of quick updates about the library technology and software changes in section 3.24 on page 129. The RFID upgrade was completed last week. The project went very smoothly. We're seeing increased performance, improved performance with our self-check kiosks. Replacement of our security gates at Richmond Library has opened up our entrances. We've gone for a wide aisle gate instead of 2 aisles with a gate in the middle, which always, created a bit of a problem for us. So a wide aisle gate, it's really opened up the entrance and it has provided a better accessibility for people. We've also upgraded our stock take scanner. We're expecting, we haven't used it yet since it's been upgraded, but we're expecting improved ability to do stock takes, to check for missing and misplaced items. And talking about the Core 2E server migration, that has actually been successfully concluded this morning, a bit earlier than we expected. So we are still a bit of testing to be done, and some functionality is not there just at the moment, but we're mostly back up and running as we should be this morning. Happy to take any questions.
All right, Councillor Kinnermonth.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the report. I think this is a bit of good news here. Page 130, clause 4.3, positive ageing expo.
We're doing the library section at the moment.
I'm jumping the gun. Okay, we'll
so
hold that back.
So on libraries, Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you. Some of you might find that, Madam Chair, Glenys, just I have had the opportunity to use the libraries a bit more than I normally do, just because of some changes in my life. And I'd have to say that the self-checkout machines seemed to work fine to me previously. So I'm wondering what the upgrade actually.
Through the chair. They're actually faster. There were times people were having to wait a bit too long for responses. Yes, indeed, and that might have been down to network conditions at the time, but there's a noticeable increase in speed. So, yeah.
All right, it looks, Glenys, thank you very much. It's always so heartwarming to read the activities that are going on and libraries as those very special places. So it's lovely to see so much activity and so many members of our community engaged there. So we'll move on to community partnerships. So Lani, welcome back. We haven't seen you here for a while.
Yeah, thank you. I missed the last one. So yeah, morena, nice to see you all. I'll take my report as read, but I just thought I'd highlight over the last week has been Compost Awareness Week. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the team in particular, Pashandi, has delivered 3 community compost workshops in Motueka, Golden Bay and Richmond, and they're just hugely attended. People have a real need for community education around environmental sustainability. So I just thought this is something happened in the last week, so it's not in my report. But, they're really enthusiastic and they really want to see the bigger picture as into what they know why they need to compost and reduce their food scraps and green waste from landfill, but they don't know why they need to do that. So yeah, these workshops that Prashanti's done has really highlighted that, but also really simple tools around how to get our food scraps and compost, our green waste out of landfill. But yeah, there was, close to 80 people that attended over those 3 districts. So I just thought I'd share another good news story that the team are doing over the last week. But yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Lani. So, Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you to you, Madam Chair, and Lani, thank you to your team and all that you do. I sit here kind of a little bit torn today because so I attend the Enviro School events, and as you would know, I do a lot with the youth and your youth portfolio, but I sit here today reflecting on what is our core business and what are our nice to haves and what are our must to haves, and where is that crossover between what TDC should be providing as opposed to the Ministry of Education. And I look at your point on the climate change learning program and that we've engaged a contractor to lead a climate change program in 3 Tasman schools. And I just question, should we be doing that? And obviously, as we go into deliberations around the long-term plan, there'll be much more conversation around what's our core business, what can we do, what can't we do, and at what cost. And I guess that program in particular, I sit there going, should we be funding something that's within the schools, which surely sits under schools curriculum? And I don't despise the work per se, and I think it's great that we're doing education, but I do have to sit there and I guess I want feedback from you as to how does that fall under our kaupapa, our work, as opposed to the ministries?
Through you, Chair. Yes, I understand what you're coming from. Maybe we can have another conversation kind of outside of this and have a bigger workshop or a conversation about this. But in terms of that climate change program, teachers are not confident in delivering climate change. They feel they don't have the knowledge or the confidence, or science is evolving every single second of the day. And so they don't feel like they have the confidence to deliver that. So respect, our kids aren't getting educated on climate change. So they continue doing the same processes that, we were growing up to doing, and not changing the world in the way that it should be changed. And so the Ministry of Education isn't necessarily delivering on climate change outcomes. And so if you look at council's core purpose and environment, and what we should be doing and what we want for our communities, there does need to be education within schools, and they're behind the 8 ball in terms of Ministry of Education, so they're not delivering it. So someone needs to step in there and deliver that program for these children. But happy to have the conversation outside as well.
Yeah, thank you, Lani. I guess I'll let Councillor Walker make a comment, but I think really probably what we're having is a LTP discussion in terms of the direction that we set as councillors for the work. But Councillor Walker.
I guess my only point is please tell me doing it in partnership and that the MOE are funding some of this contracted work.
The contract is really small. Like, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but no, they're not funding it. They are funding it in terms of in-kind, but not as in dollars. I mean, it's a very small contract.
All right.
It's in terms of the outcomes that it's achieving, and the money that we're putting in is very small. And so we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're talking a few $1,000s. And so the work the community partnerships team does, we run on a very small shoestring budget. And so we're talking about a few $1,000s to deliver the education program. So I just thought I'd put that into context as well.
All right. Once again, I think it's probably LTP. Councillor Shellcrest.
Yeah, my one's just on the obviously the skate park series, which I've been involved with through Skate Nelson Bays, and I have to say it's not just about the normal style of kids that we get. We get a lot of vulnerable youth as well, and we get great interaction with the team at Skate Nelson Bays, the council staff, and I think there's lots of positive benefits to come out of it. Even in just getting a lot of these kids off their devices and actually out being active. So I really just want to comment that that's great. And the numbers of, we've taken some basic sort of data from the last one. It's definitely a lot more people participating, which is great. And people just looking forward to it every year now, which is great. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I guess, so Lani, this was yours and Berta's report, or is Berta, you're here for Janet?
Yeah, nice. But I'd just like to introduce you to Berta. She is our Welcome Communities Officer. And no, Janet's sick at the moment.
Carry on, Lani.
And Berta's done a really extensive report in terms of our Welcome Communities program. And so she's here to present her findings for the report.
All right. Yes, over to you, Beata.
Kia ora, kia koutou. Welcoming communities is something I have introduced before. I live in hope that you have had a look at this report. And I would like to start with a very brief story that really closely relates to the report. More than a year ago, I got approached by the leader of our local Indian community, who is a successful businesswoman, very confident, trying to connect her community members here in Richmond. And despite her background, really struggling to find a venue, to find somewhere to go to bring community members together. She didn't know who to talk to, where to go. So we had a lot of conversations because it's very important for the members of the community to have a gathering space. We tried different venues. None of them really worked out. So she was about to actually do what most people do, go to Nelson. And I was working hard in the background. I talked to a lot of people. Have you got any idea where this group could meet? And the most frequent answer was, I don't know. The second most frequent answer was, I don't have a budget for this. You might have seen the recent stats data. We're losing more people than ever. People are leaving New Zealand. All those people, not all of them, a lot of those people have good qualifications. For our regional economy, it's very important that those migrants fill in jobs in the aged care sector, in the health sector, and all these areas where we have staff shortages. And the clear message I would like to just share with you on behalf is, if these people don't have a sense of community locally, they move away. So long story short, after a long period of trying to find a venue, I got a message 2 days ago. I sent her to visit the manager of Age Concern, and they found an agreement. So the Indian community can now use our Richmond Age Concern facility on Sunday afternoons for their social gatherings. This took a lot of effort. I built a lot of bridges. This is something that's often not seen. Other bridges that are being built are far more visible. This report shows don't know is the most frequent answer whenever I talk about diversity. This is not sustainable. If we look at demographic statistics, publishing data every day at the moment about our population development. When I look at our documents, our policies, our strategies, our AMPs, we're talking about an aging population, we're talking about a growing population, but we're not talking about a diversifying population. We need to incorporate that into everything we do, because this is going to be our reality, and needs will change. With a diverse population, needs will change. So what I would like to suggest is Nelson City Council has 2 elected members that have diversity on their portfolio. I think it would be helpful if we started with 1 here in Tasman as well, to give this the attention it deserves and it really needs. I will be writing, following up the report, I will be writing a plan, and I will send out an invitation for input, for participation, for priorities, what should be in the welcoming plan for Tasman. I have successfully applied for funding, for external funding from the Ethnic Communities Development Fund, to run a project throughout the whole region for 10 workshops in our rural communities to deliver on diversifying participation, because we're aware that a lot of community members from diverse backgrounds don't participate in community activities. This project will start to address this, and I'm very open to collaboration on that as well. And the last thing is, internally, we have some homework to do as well, and I would like to propose to our leadership team that we start an ERG, which is very common overseas. It is an employee resource group around diversity and inclusion, so that we create a safe space to have more conversations I think if we practice walking the talk internally, it'll help us in our interactions with community members. Thank you. Any questions? Welcome.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Councillor Kinnamonth?
Thank you. Councillor Walker and myself recently attended a citizenship ceremony where there was 58 new citizens for the Tasman region. That to me is an instant source of people we need to support coming into our area. So I would support any moves that you've got to be inclusive of our people coming in to our region. So that's me. Thank you. And keep up the great work. I have more questions, but with the previous topic.
Councillor Shawcrass?
Mine's only a wee one, and well done on getting the funding, but how much roughly was that from?
15,600.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think you can take the fact that we've got your report in our papers, and it was very interesting reading. So thank you very much. That moves us on to Janet/John.
It's either Lani, Glennis, Janet. I'm Janet today. Look, I'm not sure if Janet's on, but with the customer services team, particularly in Richmond, COVID has gone right through the team, so we've been pretty stretched through there. All the leadership team is sort of down and at home, so just bear with us. I would point you to what was interesting is when I was reading this was the counter activity, and what is intriguing is the amount of personal interaction we're getting rather than online interaction. The actual people coming to the counters increased significantly, particularly around those financial transactions. So we're going to try and get into the skin a bit more there and just see why that's happening. So look, if there's any questions, but I think you're just seeing the same volume coming through all the time. And we just manage the ebbs and flows of resourcing issues that we're facing at the moment. We've got, I think we're fully staffed now, and we do go again through resignations and back in again. So there's quite a bit of turnover in that area, but it seems to have stabilised now. We've got some really good quality, experienced people in there who would deal generally with 99% of really good people and 1% of really bad people, which we still face at the moment.
Thank you, John. Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And John loves no, it's actually a serious question this time. So 5.12, and you may not know the answer yet. So in terms of 50% of the transactions look to be AA/NZTA compared to council-related financial transactions. I'm just interested in what the cost of providing that service as a whole. We get $150,000 less GST.
AA, you're talking about? Yeah.
So,
and look, it's a break-even service.
So is our cost to deliver the public count that financial transaction services? I take it from face to face. So is our total cost around $340,000 to deliver that service? Because it looks like half the financial transactions are AA and NZTA, the other half council, and I suspect that's on a financial budget.
What I would say is it when I first came in, I was told I made a surplus. What I now know is it breaks even.
Okay.
So I've questioned that service since the moment I walked in, but it's more of a, in inverted commas, a social service as opposed to a inverted commas profit making service.
And I think it's actually great that the face to face have increased. So I know it's easy and cheaper to do it online, but I actually think that interaction is actually it's really good.
Oh no, I guess I wasn't saying look, let's not do this, but it's just interesting. It's increased so much, and we want to get into the skin of why that is, so we can make sure we've got the right information, etc., going out there.
And I don't think I have. So just a shadow, I did take some time and spent some time with the phone staff. Amazing what they knew and how they could find that, and how they actually answered the phone with me prodding them and taking the mickey was impressive. But that service was brilliant.
You might be on standby if there are staffing shortages.
I offered they wouldn't let me, Madam Chair. I don't think they'd like it.
Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow on, Brent, those ladies out there generally do a really good job and appreciated by the community. In fact, I was one of the face-to-face people this morning, and somewhat surprised that for the AA side, we don't have pay wave. I think they did allude that that's coming, but I'm surprised we're only breaking even. Why we're not making it faster and easier for people to interact, particularly when everyone seems to pay wave.
I imagine that's driven a lot by the AA though, and how much they want, because it's commission. It's based on commission, that service. So I guess it's how much.
Yeah, I think they said there is some change coming, but they weren't sure. Be worth following up though.
All right, thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody. That's all much appreciated. We do have a resolution up there on the board to receive the report. Do I have someone who would move that? Moved Councillor Maru, seconded Councillor Daihi. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, that is carried. This takes us to our information services activity report. So we've got Chris. Thank you, Chris, and Rob. Peter. Of course it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Apologies for that, Peter. Over to you. Thank you.
You may not know that Chris is he's an undercover rock and roller, and he's off up to Auckland to thrash it out tonight with his band. So he can't be here today. So yes, information services report. I'll take the report as read and take your questions. I guess the headlines for this report are the imminent go live of our Magic Cloud system that goes live in 11 days' time. We now have signed contracts for our customer management system with a company called HCL Tech that went through last week. And we are just at the point of signing contracts for our data and insights program. So what this is reflecting is with the digital program, we've gone through quite a long period of planning and then moved into procurement. And now we're crossing that cusp and moving into delivery. So things are just getting busy, but we're actually going to start to see some stuff happen. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Maru.
It's a weird question because it's not entirely related to the project. But where's our communications and change manager?
Yes, good point. So the communication and change manager is a new role within the operations team. And it's a woman called Charlotte Souch, and she starts on Monday.
And then we've got a change lead role that reports to Charlotte. So we've actually got two. So we have successfully recruited a DIP change lead role, who this role reports to the communication and change manager.
Oh, yes, that's Chris Cho.
Thank you.
Just one question for myself. I think this is what I read in the report. So we plan to go live 27 of May with the Magic Merlin Cloud upgrade. Be fantastic to move to this point to really reduce our risk. But then I think I did read in the report that we were currently tracking quite a number of defects. So how are we going since writing the report in terms of getting those defects down, and are we sure about what our criteria is around defect management before we go live?
Yes, it's a good question, and we still have a small number of defects, but they aren't of a status that would delay go live at this point. So we continue to clear them out. This has had the most comprehensive test program of any system upgrade that we've done. I think we've completed over 300 user acceptance tests. Then we've moved on to system tests and integration testing. So the user acceptance testing, that's where the business tests the functionality and makes sure it's working. That's all completed, barring, I think, 2 defects in the finance team, which we're continuing to work through, but they're not showstoppers. And now we're on systems testing and integration testing. So our biggest integration test is with our document management system with Doris, because there's a lot of integration between the two systems. You can imagine if you're in a resource consent, you want to click through to the documents. So I'm just working on that at the moment. At this stage, go live is still on track, and yeah, we're hoping for a good result.
Cool. And I always like to just make sure, at the end of the day, the decision to go live, ultimately that responsibility to make that decision must rest with one person. And so we just need to be completely clear who that person is, because, you don't want it to go horribly bad.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the chair of the Core Council Applications Board, John Ridd. So John will be kept in touch. So we move into quite a formal process from next week, because Monday is a week before go live. So each day we have gates that we have to pass through. And then on Thursday next week, we have our final go, no go meeting. And then from then on, we're into the final weekend stretch. So we get the new system handed to us after lunch on Sunday, and then through Sunday afternoon into the evening, we've got about 30 staff in the building just working through final testing, and then we should be ready to push the button across. They'll be working in the live environment at that point. So provided we don't get any final second showstoppers, they'll sign it off and we'll be good to go for staff the next day.
Awesome, thank you for that. I mean, it's massive to get to the point of what you've achieved, so really do acknowledge that. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Rob, or?
Rob just mentioned that ELT will be on site, members of ELT for part of that final process as well. So just to ensure that we're ready to go.
Excellent. Any further questions for Peter or Rob? No, if not, we've got the resolution up there on the board that we received your report. Well done, thank you. All those in favour, moved by Councillor Maru, seconded by Councillor Mayling. All those in favour, please say aye. Against.
Thanks all.
Oh, Councillor Hill, thank you. Aye, thank you. Carried. Thank you. This then takes us to our last report, which is a referral report from the Nelson Regional Sewerage Business Unit. And who is speaking to that report? Are you speaking to? No, you can't be speaking to that report. Oh, okay. So Richard, maybe would you like to speak briefly to the report?
Basically, NRSBU.
Microphone, please.
Sorry, I'll put the microphone on. NRSBU are wanting to clear up designations around the operations in Bell Island and Best Island. And so this is just to tidy up those designations. That's what this is all about. As you understand, it's going to be with Tasman District Council, because both those, but that site's within Tasman District Council's territorial area. So this is just to tidy that up and just get approval from the council for them to go ahead and get those gazettes in place.
Councillor Mayling.
I'm happy to move, but I also think it includes pump stations too.
It might do. I'm trying scrambling around before to find exactly what the scope included, but I think it does include pump stations.
Sure, it includes pump stations as well, because we've got these sites, and it's an oversight. It should have been done years ago. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to get resource consents for when we do a discharge permit, which the current consent is for 20 years, so it comes up in about 16 and a half years time to do it again for Bells Island and Rabbit Island. Biosolids is the same, but this isn't for Rabbit Island. This is for Bells Island and the area of land that we own on Best Island and the pump stations.
Deputy Mayor Bryant, was that a question?
Well,
Madam Chair.
for you, Madam Chair. Your worship.
For Best Island, it's 58 hectares that we own there. That's
so it's all the recently acquired land.
About 4 years ago.
Can I just clarify also what Councillor just said, that we'd still have to go through a consent for the discharge at Bell Island, but what these would do would allow us to, or the NRSBU, to actually build buildings and do things on site without having to go for a consent for everything. Correct.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Bryant. So moved by Councillor Mayling, seconded Deputy Mayor Bryant. I'll put that resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, and that is carried. We do seem to be dropping like flies. We do have a quorum? I'm just
Oh, there's two up there.
two. Yeah, okay, no, all good. All right, councillors. Thank you very much. That takes us to the end of our meeting this morning. And I wonder if I could call on Councillor Hill to give our closing karakia, please.
Sure, Chair. Karakia tātou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa paunamo i te moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, hui e, kai ki e. May peace be widespread, may the sea be like greenstone, a pathway for us all to stay, and let us show respect for each other.
Thank you very much. That is the end of proceedings. Thank you.